Ingleborough is the most impressive of the three peaks of Yorkshire, looming to a height of 2,350 feet. But not all those who come to this place look upwards, for spreading away from the feet of Ingleborough, there's another world, downwards. It can be entered by following the rivers that run along the high plateau of the Western Dales around Ingleton. Their waters plunge into glacial shafts piercing vertically through the limestone. There are hundreds of disappearing rivers in this area, and for nearly a century men have striven and occasionally sacrificed their lives to try and answer two questions. What was down there, and where did all that water go to? So courageously they went down and discovered caves and tunnels deep underground, and every time they broke through to a new place, it pointed the way to yet another. Link after link was established, often painfully. You can now make a 30-mile underground excursion from Yorkshire to the Lake District. But one mystery has troubled these subterranean explorers for 50 years and more. One of the vanishing rivers defied reasonable explanation, but in 1967, dye tests started to reveal the existence of the most hazardous link of all, the ultimate challenge. They called it the Underground Eiger. Geoff Yeadon is a cave diver, and sometimes a person of no fixed abode. Oliver Statham is a cave diver too.
It's cold.
He lives a more settled life in Skipton with Anne Poole. Geoff Yeadon was a teacher. He quit to go his own way.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to have to get on.
Yes, all right. All right.
Geoff Yeadon was born and raised in the Yorkshire Dales. Oliver Statham is the son of an ambassador. He has lived in several countries, went to public school, and is known as Bear to his friends.
Hello, Geoffrey.
Morning, Gibbons. What have you been up to then?
The two men are partners. Together they make pots to sell to the tourists who flood the Yorkshire Dales. And together they go cave diving.
What are you going to do today anyway, Geoff?
More mugs, I would think. Oh, I like mugs.
Fun?
I like mugs this small and they make a lot of money, don't they?
I don't know. A bit repetitive and boring, aren't they, really?
That's all my brain's up to this morning.
Cave diving combines the claustrophobic perils of potholing with the obvious dangers of sub-aqua diving. It multiplies them. The two men have been passionately involved with both activities for several years and are now counted among the most skilled cave divers in Europe. They know only too well the risks that they take.
Very aware. Because, my first dive with Geoff was nearly my last. I'd done a certain amount of diving before that, but the actual dive was in Boreham Cave, and we were diving together for the first time. Geoff had trained on his own before that, and I'd learnt off my own back completely. I read the US Navy diving manual 2 or 3 times, and then decided just to have a go at it. And anyhow, the first time we actually finished up going in together was in Boreham. My valve failed. We're about 120 or 30 feet in, and we'd established no rapport, as it were. We were both very inexperienced, and my valve failed. I swam over to him asking for an extra air supply. I was pointing, it's a standard signal. And Geoff didn't understand what was happening, so I waited for about 2 or 3 seconds and then panicked.
He suddenly came zooming back, and the first thing I saw was a mask with fingers pointing furiously at his breathing apparatus. And that lasted for no more than 2 seconds, and he was off like a rocket. Obviously something had gone wrong with his breathing apparatus, and he shot away into the gloom, and there were clouds of silk coming up behind him. And he didn't go by himself. I went with him, because on his way past me, his bottle, which is attached to his side, caught round my hose from my mouthpiece, and so he was dragging me along and trying to pull my mouthpiece out at the same time, which upset me quite a bit. So I carefully unhooked this and thought, oh, I might find him lying on the bottom just up front. So I followed as quickly as I could, but he was going like a torpedo, so I couldn't catch him up.
I can remember that's the first time I can remember any fear in cave diving. Before that, I thought that I was, thought that I knew enough, and thought I was confident enough to do it and survive everything. But this time, I actually thought, I sort of can remember in my head, you're going to die, Statham, sort of thing. And I finally just made it on the last gasp and fell out of the water, as it were. And I couldn't speak for about 5 or 6 minutes. I can remember the echo in this chamber as I sort of took a gasp for breath. And I can still remember this echo, this sound bouncing around. And then I lay flat on my back because I used so much nervous energy and adrenaline had been pumping through me, and my legs were just completely stiff and I couldn't move them at all.
Whenever they can afford to, Geoff Yeadon and Oliver Statham head towards the slopes of Ingleborough, specifically to a wild and empty valley called Kingsdale. Along the northern ridge of Kingsdale runs the vanishing river, which has intrigued potholers for generations. When they first placed dye down this hole in the Yorkshire Dales, something very interesting happened. For 3 days, the dye completely disappeared. This indicated that it had a long way to travel, somewhere down there under the limestone. Yet the dye finally emerged not much more than a mile down the valley in a pool called Keld Head.
Water in there, Geoffrey.
Oh my God. A bit, isn't there?
I think you'll be able to dive.
You can still dive. The beck's 2 foot up.
It was dry about 2 hours ago.
It was dry a couple of hours.
The enigma of Kingsdale defied explanation for years until Geoff and Bear began their exploration, all of it underwater. Now they prepare to face up to a journey no one has ever attempted before.
I'll give you a hand before I get in mine.
1, 2, 3. More hair. This hair trapped.
And Bob, can you just pull this really hard? Good job. See it went. You want a bit more? Ready for up. Right, watch his valves, side to side. Let him trail it more.
Their accoutrement of complex equipment has been specially devised to help them survive.
Oh no.
The whole operation takes many hours as they test each individual piece of equipment.
Can you check me for leaks? Huh? Check for leaks on the back. See if you can see any. A very slight dribble on the high pressure. Be okay though, won't it? Alright for this for the moment.
For one man among the spectators, the event has much significance. When he was young, Reg Hainsworth, now 75, pioneered the exploration of Kingsdale.
Three or four of us had a go in. We didn't get very far.
Anything better than we are?
Yeah, it's not more than about 7 yards. Oh, I don't know, you'd have had a go. I wouldn't like to do that anyway. By Jove, though, I like the modern equipment.
Mr. Hainsworth, what was your involvement here?
Well, we just thought that this was a rock curtain, and we hoped that we could drain this pool and, of course, walk in. And it didn't work. Well, it hasn't worked out like that at all, and even we didn't get in above not more than 10 yards when we did dry this pool.
Throughout one summer nearly 3 decades ago, Mr. Hainsworth and a group of other enthusiasts dug to try and find the answer to the mystery.
Well, the number, it must have been 30 or 40, because most of our club members and friends, and this would be about 52. And we simply dug away down to the sheep gate, further down.
In there, did you? To dive into Keld Head?
Oh, we stripped and put shorts on and covered our bodies with motor grease to keep warm, put tubes around our chests to keep us upright in case of accident.
They made the very first attempt in Yorkshire at cave diving. They thought that if they swam a few yards under the water, they would come up into a cave and find air. They were wrong.
Of course, it was pretty hopeless, as these boys have just told us now. The roof drops as much as 60 feet before they get through this 6,000 feet that they're trying to get through. So our job was pretty hopeless, but we didn't know that in those days.
Mr. Hainsworth himself was one of those who dived into Keld Head that summer.
It's proved everything. It's proved that this master cave was there. It's proved that there's a link up from here to the caves on the surface.
Geoff and Bear satisfy themselves that their new equipment can stand up to a long dive. The next stage is to place an emergency air supply deep inside Keld Head. Within the next 48 hours, they mean to tackle the full length of the Underground Eiger. The two men are already celebrated for tracing the final link in the baffling Kingsdale system. They proved by forays from each end that an underground river runs from the Master Cave all the way to Keld Head. The water sources flow from several directions, converge underground and then disappear into a completely airless tube of water, winding 1¼ miles through the limestone. The longest of its kind in the world.
3 coffees, please, Bernard.
That's where we're going in.
It's about a quarter of a mile,
isn't it? Should take them, what, about...
Thanks, Uncle.
Oh, great.
The eve of the world record attempt, help is eagerly offered from all sections of the caving community. Survival is the first consideration, but Geoff and Bear know they will be very much on their own. If things go wrong, there is very little their supporters can do.
You want to be very sure and tell everybody on the surface that either a rescue attempt is made after a certain time or there is no rescue attempt to be made at all.
Well, the most we can do is just have Watto or Bubba Indy, who've got experience of the system, to do a search for, let's say, 1,000 feet or so, perhaps a couple of thousand from both ends. And after that, forget it. Because by that time, there's not much chance of finding us alive anyway. Apart from which is very unlikely. Both of us aren't going to come out. One of us is going to come out.
It's going to be me.
Bear, how long have you two been working on this particular dive?
About 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. The thing is, this cave, although it's the longest through dive in the world when we do it, is only a small segment of a much bigger cave system stretching between Cumbria, Lancashire and Yorkshire. There are various gaps missing in it, but certainly my interest is totally revolves around connecting all these together. I know it won't happen in my lifetime, but this is one of the first big connections.
Which is going to be the worst part of the dive?
Near the beginning, actually, about 1/4 mile in, this, the beginning side of the halfway point. It's a lot of low passageways there. Because you're in an oxbow away from the main river, there's no flow to clear the murky water away. So
After you've stirred it up.
yeah, for the second man through, it's going to be this sort of visibility. You won't see further than my hand. And when we get to Dead Man's Handshake and have got through that, as I said before, we'll feel as though we're out if everything's working properly. Feels like plain sailing to us. But at the same time, you're always aware that something could happen with your valves. You're keyed up to a certain extent and are ready to swap your mouthpieces at a moment's notice. And the main danger is that if one of your valves packs in just after you've exhaled and the next breath is not of air but of water and your lungs are twitching furiously for air, so that's the diciest thing that could happen to us. And it's made worse if it happens in poor visibility in a low tunnel.
How did you arrive at such a horrible name for it?
Well, it's a long story, isn't it?
Yeah.
We had a German friend of ours came over.
And it was flooding, wasn't it?
It was flooding, yes. We went up there and inspected the visibility and we didn't like it very much. But Jochen had travelled all this distance.
It says, we will dive tomorrow.
Yeah, so off we went on this suicide mission with our German friend. And we all dived independently, half-hour intervals, so as not to get in each other's way. And when I arrived at Dead Man's Handshake, it's this horrible constriction, sort of nasty little hole with a bedding plane. That's sort of the way the limestone's laid, very low and flat to the side. And the line disappeared into this, and I just tried to get through it a couple of times. And the third time I was just in a position to get through. And I thought, well, I could then see what was on the other side, and I thought, well, I'm not going in there because he's going to have enough trouble getting out. So I came back. I met Geoff and wrote on my slate saying it's very low with back and side mounted bottles. No Jochen, trouble, question mark. This was all happening down there. So Geoffrey, being the brave man he was, wrote, I will go and have a look and then turn back. I know, which brings...
After he wrote that message, my Adam Zappel was working overtime, you know. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to find a hulk somewhere up here, heaving. And I got up to this tight constriction. I was just thinking, good, he isn't here, I'll be able to turn back. And suddenly I felt the line pulling. And then I put my head round the corner and these lights appeared. And he was on his side, but he couldn't actually see me. So I pulled on the line to let him know I was there, and he pulled back, tingled, but he knew I was there, and then went off somewhere else and disappeared for about 10 minutes. Yeah, eventually he appeared at this tiny little crack about this big, and I saw him through there, so I thrust my hand in, and his hand came quickly the other way and grabbed hold of mine, and it was shaking like this. And I thought, oh, God, he's going to snuff it. And eventually he just calmly patted me on the hand to sort of have a final attempt at getting out. He really calmed down. Yeah. And when he got out, he wouldn't show me how much air he got left. So I thought, is he going to come for my air, you know? So I was keeping well back, up in the roof, thinking he's going to have a go at me.
That's where the story came from, because Geoff said, oh, I thought I was shaking a dead man's hand in there, and we thought, I like that. And
it sounds a bit like a pirate story, though, doesn't it? Yeah. There is, in fact, one diver who lost his life in Keld Head, very near to the entrance. And that was as a result of getting tangled in the line and cutting the line, as far as we know, because the line was cut. And nobody found him for 5 years. One of our friends eventually found him up a side passage, and there was a cable coming out of the mud, and well, it turned out to be the diver, didn't it? So
I don't think you ought to dwell on that too long.
Yeah.
I think it's unfair.
Yeah.
In the Dales of Yorkshire, it's traditional to celebrate with some vigour any new underground achievement. Geoff and Bear decide to organise a party for their friends before the attempt, just in case.
Is this new?
Dawn on the appointed day. The backup team, more than 20 experienced cavers and divers, prepare to do their part.
Come on, lads.
The Cave Rescue Organisation have sent in their ambulance and mobile canteen. Entrances to potholes can vary. This one is unique, a dustbin driven into the rock. It leads to the Master Cave where the dive will begin and was discovered only in 1967 from the inside.
Watch this.
No. Don't slip me old bed.
Don't want to break my leg. Oh dear. I'm used to this being a dustbin, man. Well, I won't look at this. I'm going straight down the hole. See you then, anyway.
Ian,
See you in a bit.
you clear, Geoff?
Yeah.
See ya.
The backup team has to drag all the equipment a quarter of a mile. There is another way in, but this is considered to be the easy one. A sound team climbs to try and find the spot exactly above the point where the dive begins. Anne goes with them. The last stage, down to a world of perpetual rain. This is where the dive will start. They call it the sump.
Surface to sump, over.
Sump to surface, receiving you loud but not very clearly, over. Please test your aerial loop again, over.
Understood.
The surface team has special sound equipment which should maintain contact with the divers throughout the attempt, if it works.
Well, say anything counts.
Surface to sump, over.
Sump here, over.
Yeah, it's okay, we've got you now. We'll establish contact here and just wait a while until the kitting up's finished.
Message understood. Standing by.
We're within 10 feet or so here.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
And each diver has a secondary sound system, miniature tape recorders protected by Perspex underwater housings. The radio system is a brand new concept adapted for the occasion. The inventor Bob Mackin of Lancaster University.
It has never been done before. There's never been a radio communication to a person in water.
Over.
Surface receiving.
They do not wish to try and contact you just yet. They are setting up the tape recorders on the mask microphones. Over.
Understood. Sorry about that. Yes, it's taken a long time. The initial system, as I say, was for general ground communication for cave rescue and such like. It has a lot of commercial applications, but it's the first time there's ever been a radio communication to someone in water. It's quite a new idea in that respect, yes.
How long have you been working on it?
8 years.
Someone in the middle. No. Here.
Surface to sump you receive, over. Do you want to talk to Bear?
I'd like to talk to them when they're actually swimming, but at the moment they're kissing up, and there will be a certain amount of tension between them down there, so I think they're best left to their own devices, really.
The two men have divided responsibility for sound and vision. Bear will shoot film along the way with two newly designed lightweight underwater cameras. Geoff will try and maintain audio contact with the surface team.
I want to make it a bit shorter. Just a bit. Just kind of a loop in it. Put a small loop in it.
Right. Surface to sump, over.
Sump receiving you, over.
We'd like a fairly accurate estimate of the start time, please, over.
The hold-up at the moment is connecting his demand valve to his air tanks. It should take no longer than 3 or 4 minutes, according to those helping him. Geoff is already in the water and is testing the lights, which he has with him. Over.
Yes, received and understood. 3 or 4 minutes to the start then. We'll start preparing to move off here, over.
I'll give you 5 minutes when you get through the first 3. Okay, about a couple of minutes.
The moment arrives. The two men have prepared for it for more than 5 years. But it's done casually. There are no brave words. Bear goes first.
They've set off.
Okay, right. I'll go down the 1,000 foot.
We'll try and follow at the right speed.
Okay.
Surface to sump, we are now following down. Received and understood.
Their progress below is to be marked on the surface by flashing lights, 200 of them, spread up and down Kingsdale.
The water is much clearer here. We are now in an oxbow away from the main river.
Over the years, the two divers have gradually laid out guidelines. Without them, they wouldn't survive. Along the way, there are several unexplored passages which could lead them to certain death. Trapped air forms mirrors on the roof.
Yes, I can hear you, although we are not quite overhead. Over.
We are approaching 1,000 feet. Over.
Received and understood.
Is that 1,000?
Approaching 1,000. We are slightly...
1,000 feet behind them, 5,000 feet to go. They now approach the first of the major hazards.
I am now past the first squeeze. I'm following there in very poor visibility.
Must be just over the wall where he
That's
is.
another bleak, yeah. He's just gone into the big passage, hasn't he? Where's the location? It's all alone.
Somewhere very close to here.
Over this stage, Geoff has been transmitting tone, bleeps, so that a cross-bearing can be found to locate him precisely. A conversation is planned, the very first of its kind.
This is Geoff. Can you hear me?
Received loud and clear. Do you receive us? Over.
Yes, I receive loud and clear. Over.
Stand by.
Did you lose him then?
No.
For a moment, you seemed to be wandering about the place.
No, we were merely looking for him. Who's going to interview him?
Geoff, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Over.
What are conditions like for you down there, Geoff? Over.
It is very cold. My fingers are numb. And so are my toes.
Hello, Jeffrey. It's Anne here. How are you feeling? Over.
Hello, Bluesy. You always ring me up when I've got something else to do.
Have you seen anything of Oliver? Over.
We are filming at the moment. He is next to me.
Is he feeling quite happy? Over.
I think he is okay. We have had no trouble so far.
Good. Over and out.
They approach the point where in June of 1978 they joined the guidelines. They are 2,400 feet in.
Between Keld Head and Kingsdale Master Cave.
Hello, Geoff. Do you receive? Over.
As they near Dead Man's Handshake, the surface team have to climb higher. The layer of rock between them and the divers thickens, and communication becomes difficult.
Do you receive? Over.
Roughly halfway now. They're just approaching Dead Man's Handshake.
You know exactly where they are now?
Well, it's a bit bad down here because there's a great distance between us, but they're approximately, say, 20 yards either side of this line.
So it's a dangerous spot just here, this
Yes,
halfway
this-
mark.
Yes, the shaft which they've now cleared safely, and this will be the worst part.
And then after this, what? It's fairly plain sailing, is it?
Well, I wouldn't call it plain sailing, but yeah, relatively speaking.
But supposing something did go wrong, what would
Well,
happen
cave
then?
diving's. I mean, I can't really say how I would feel because it's a sort of all or nothing sport, really. If anything went wrong, they'd die. I mean, it's not something that you can be rescued from, really.
We're up to the 1,100 foot from Keld Head.
We're about 500 feet below us now,
500 down.
roughly.
Yeah.
Bob, is it about 500 feet below us now?
Something like that, yes.
The doorstep of Dead Man's Handshake, almost 3,000 feet in.
A single burst of tone there.
What was
Single?
Communication on the surface has been lost, and Oliver Statham suddenly runs into serious trouble at Dead Man's Handshake.
Trouble! Drink! Demand valve!
A piece of rock has jammed his demand valve. His reactions are recorded on his secondary sound system.
Done it, I've done to try it out again. Valve seems to be working.
Blithely unaware of the crisis 500 feet below, the surface team proceeds. Eventually, Dead Man's Handshake is safely negotiated. There's another 3,000 feet to go, but their spirits clearly begin to rise.
Oh, me, the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I had a little drink about an hour ago, and it's gone right to my head.
You always get stuck there.
Painful, over.
Oh, froggy wood, where we go. Hey, ho, said Rolly. Diddly diddly doo chicken, and I forgot the rest of the tune. Do 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 do.
They have also located the emergency air supply. Their confidence is reflected among the surface party. At Keld Head, a crowd gathers in the mist to witness the climax. 2.5 hours, 1.25 miles. The Underground Eiger has been conquered.
We are nearly there!
Can they drink champagne with the masks on? So I've got the cameras. Hey, Geoffrey! Geoffrey! Oh, great! Not too bad. What a stink! Shook to the water. Let's have a drink instead of throwing it everywhere. We're in the middle of a flood or something.
Yes.
I thought we were.
How do you stand up, shake your hand.
How do you feel, Geoff?
Slightly worse than a trout.
What on earth made you do it?
Because we were there.
Were there any bad moments?
Oh yes, a dead man's handshake.
It's been out of
As I came through it, exactly as I squeezed through, my spare valve got a huge lump of rock jammed in it, and it was just spewing air all over the place.
Did you know about Bear's problem with the...
Not initially.
early on?
Not initially. It took probably 30 seconds or so before I realised that there was something had been wrong, but it just fixed it.
But I mean, that's a sort of worrying thing that can happen in a situation like
Well, you know, for 10 seconds I was, well, until I switched it on again and saw it was working, I was desperately worried.
What about you? Did you have any bad moments?
No. I had my main problems were with all the equipment and following along in his poor visibility, kicked up by his flippers. So I kept banging into things a lot and getting stuck a lot.
Did anybody suggest to you that you were being foolish to tackle it in the first place?
Oh, my dad.